Breaking tonight, Prince Andrew is giving up all of his titles, including the Duke of York. It follows a string of scandals surrounding his relationship with paedophile Jeffrey Epstein and his relationship with an alleged Chinese spy. But of course, he will remain a prince, as this remains his birthright.
Is exploding tonight. The Duke of York is among the titles that Prince Andrew is relinquishing. It comes after a series of controversies involving his ties with a suspected Chinese spy and paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Naturally, though, since this is still his birthright, he will continue to be a royal. It's official. There is no longer a Duchess of York. The final formal thread that bound Sarah Ferguson to royal life has been lost. She was formerly proudly acknowledged as Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of York. When Prince Andrew decides to give up his titles, honours, and formal responsibilities, Fergie's standing also falls apart. The House of York, long the glitzy branch of the royal family, is now essentially dissolved, since the title that characterised her for almost 40 years has disappeared suddenly. However, how did this happen? Why now? What follows for Princess Beatrice, Princess Eugenie, Sarah Ferguson, Prince Andrew, and their daughters? The Duchess of York's transformation into the former Duchess of York is the subject of this account. It's a tale of controversy, repression, and fallout. Perhaps most importantly, it marks the end of the Yorks' protracted and intricate decline.
Friends of Sarah, the Duchess of York, have come to her defence as pressure mounts for her to be stripped of her royal title.
It's a whole big deal. Let's get some more. Here's our entertainment editor, Peter Ford. Pete, this is all to do with Fergie's former friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, of course.
Yeah, and the resurfaced email grovelling and apologising to whom that she sent.
The news shook Britain like a clap of thunder. Prince Andrew would relinquish all of his remaining royal titles and honours, including his most defining title, Duke of York, according to a succinct and narrowly worded statement from Buckingham Palace. Just a few phrases that essentially put a permanent end to his public function inside the monarchy, no in-depth explanation, no interviews. And a domino dropped in that same moment. Because the Duchess vanishes from the royal scene along with the Duke of York. Despite her 1996 divorce from Andrew, Sarah Ferguson was able to maintain the title of Duchess of York for decades. She was no longer Her Royal Highness. She was still Sarah, Duchess of York, but the Queen's order had stolen that role. In addition to being sentimental and possibly symbolic, it was also her brand, her identity, and her link to respectability in the royal family. But the courtesy falls apart along with the basis.
7 charities have within 24 hours cut ties with the Duchess of York after that email sent to convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein surfaced from 2011 in the Sunday papers. It was the email where Fergie called him her supreme friend and basically grovelled to him for publicly criticising him.
Andrew did not just abandon his identity when he gave up the ducal title. He also essentially obliterated Sarah's. According to royal insiders, Fergie is no longer permitted to use the title Duchess of York in any public or official contexts as a result of Andrew's decision. She's just Sarah Ferguson again after over 40 years. We must return to the regulations of royal peerage and courtesy titles in order to comprehend why Fergie lost her title. Sarah Ferguson became Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of York, in 1986 when she wed Prince Andrew. On Andrew's wedding day, Queen Elizabeth II personally bestowed the title upon him. It was a title that represented new beginnings at the time. The young prince and his bride were viewed as the monarchy's vibrant, contemporary faces. But Sarah's standing deteriorated when their marriage broke down due to infidelity, scandals, and constant tabloid criticism. Following their 1996 divorce, the Queen confirmed in fresh letters patent that former princes' wives would no longer be able to wear Her Royal Highness's style. With her first name appended, Sarah, Duchess of York, the same arrangement used by divorced peeresses, she was allowed to keep using the title as a courtesy, nonetheless. There was no legal right to it.
Sarah Ferguson and that contribution to her debts by the deceased paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. As reported in the Mail, what we discover.
She didn't have the title herself. It was a loan that was connected to Andrew's ongoing ownership of his duke. The courtesy vanishes as soon as that title goes. And that's just what has already occurred. Andrew has cut Sarah's ties to the royal system by relinquishing the title of Duke of York. She is no longer, even out of courtesy, the Duchess of York in the eyes of royal protocol. Technically and intentionally, it is an erasure. Don't get me wrong, this was not a spontaneous or selfless gesture of humility. Years of damage control behind closed doors have culminated in the palace's decision to resign or strip Andrew's titles. According to the report, the king has been annoyed by Andrew's controversies for a long time. From his connection to the discredited financial industry to the traumatic BBC interview to the civil case that was settled. The monarch was forced to remove himself from the crown as each episode eroded its legitimacy. This was handled purposefully, even surgically, by the palace.
Duke's ex-wife, Sarah, Duchess of York, will also lose her title and will be known as Sarah Ferguson, and tonight Prince Andrew issued the following statement. He said, "In discussion with the King, who is of course his brother, and my immediate and wider family, we have concluded the continued accusations about me distracts from the work."
Prince Andrew is going to give up his titles and distinctions. Although that may sound courteous, in royal code it means that you are no longer authorized to represent or associate with the king. And everything downstream, even courtesy titles given to ex-spouses, disappears when that occurs. We must return to the regulations of royal peerage and courtesy titles in order to comprehend why Fergie lost her title. On years, many have been calling on Sarah Ferguson to forfeit her title. She has, nevertheless, demonstrated over the years that she can withstand scandal. This is by no means the first time she has fallen from favor. She became one of the most notorious people in Britain in the 1990s because to the tabloids. From pictures of vacationers sucking their toes to allegations of financial mismanagement, extravagant spending, and improper sponsorships.
Your favourite duo, the King's nieces, Beatrice and Eugenie, were on the cover of a magazine this week and they were described as the royal family's secret weapons. Did you write that headline?
I have to say, it's a bit of a journalistic cliche. I think secret weapons that we may have to stop.
There's no such thing.
we may have to stop using because pretty much every.
She was rumored to have accrued millions of dollars in debt at one point despite still being a member of the royal family. She received the moniker Fergie the Freeloader, was ostracized for being careless and unworthy, and was even temporarily excluded from royal functions. Nevertheless, she continued to return through her enduring bond with Andrew, her charitable activities, children's books, and media appearances. Rebuilding herself, she became the endearing royal outsider who had made errors but never let them break her spirit. Public opinion gradually shifted. Fergie, the Duchess who had fallen from grace but never quite vanished, was relatable, flawed, and human once again. Her identity as the Duchess of York played a major role in that comeback. Her voice became prominent in royal commentary thanks to the title that made her famous and opened doors in the media and publishing industry. Without it, she legally and symbolically lost her royal identity. The ramifications extend well beyond Fergie. As a result, the House of York is no longer a functioning royal branch. An ancient and legendary title with strong royal ties was restored when Queen Elizabeth II gave it to Andrew in 1986. Richard III and Edward IVTH were two of the monarchs that came from the House of York. It was a historically significant name. Previously associated with authority and ancestry, the name is now tainted by controversy. Prince Andrew renounced his position. Sarah Ferguson's title was revoked. The discreet retreat from royal life of the York girls, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie. While keeping their princess titles, Beatrice and Eugenie have maintained private careers and family lives outside of the palace. Neither is a working royal. Their parents' demise leaves a lasting "what is the current situation with Sarah Ferguson?" She has not publicly discussed the title loss, maintaining her customary composure. She is unhappy, but not surprised, according to those close to her. She has spent years in private preparation for this moment. Fergie has continued to be active as a writer, public speaker, and charitable supporter while not having formal royal support.
This is why one of the reasons the Queen loved you so much and you were so special to her. What did she mean to you?
She just I think I was just myself with her, and I was allowed to be myself with her, which is such a joy.
She has established her own revenue streams and kept a devoted following, particularly in the US, where her open and heartfelt approach is well received. She has also developed a gentler, more contemplative persona in recent years. She has openly spoken self-acceptance, family, and forgiveness. She overcame financial scrutiny, survived breast cancer, and endured more scandals than most people could recall. Will losing her title ruin her, even if it would be humiliating? According to some experts, it might set her free and enable her to finally embrace her individuality without the burden of royal expectations. However, there is no denying that this is a deeply personal loss. It feels like losing a piece of oneself to a woman who has been the Duchess of York for nearly 40 years to be informed the title no longer exists. It is a discreet dethroning that concludes with a change in the letterhead, her removal from official documents, and a change in the way the palace refers to her rather than a public event. The public's reaction has been divided. Some believe that this is long time and the last act of accountability in a long-running story that has brought the monarchy to its knees. Some people believe that enough is enough after all of the scandals she has experienced. Others believe it is unduly severe, particularly to Sarah, who many believe has already paid her dues and suffered enough public humiliation. She never left Andrew during his toughest moments. When few others would, she maintained on his innocence, defended his integrity, and referred to him as a good guy. However, why? Why did she do it? Is that a woman pursuing a check, or something else? Even though the king's new financial reorganization plan casts doubt on the property itself, they continue to reside together at Royal Lodge. According to certain speculations, Fergie and Andrew might work behind the scenes. The palace is acting strategically. The king conveys a message about contemporary accountability by subtly depriving Andrew of his titles, indicating that no one is above the law, not even a prince. However, he also maintains some compassion by letting this play out in private without causing embarrassment to the public. However, there is a plan here. The Yorks' removal from the formal hierarchy makes room for the Waleses. Princess Catherine, Prince William, and their kids should be the centre of attention.
After she said, "I'll never have anything to do with that man again. I'm so ashamed of myself." Now, the scenario that's being put forward is that he being Epstein, was going to sue Fergie, and she was trying to avoid that. So she claims on advice that she was given, that's why she wrote that grovelling letter.
The monarchy is undergoing a rebranding, streamlining, and restructuring. Confusion and scandal have no place in that vision. The Yorks are colourful, contentious, and inconvenient remnants of a bygone era. What does this leave them with, then? Sarah Ferguson sees a modest rebirth as the way forward. After her recent email issue is over, she'll probably keep writing, giving speeches, and maybe even hosting. However, the future is bleak without the royal prefix that formerly gave her credibility for Andrew. He's not likely to go back to being a public figure. He has turned into an awkward character who is accepted but not welcomed even in the family. Beatrice and Eugenie will probably keep defining their personal lives. Both appear happy away from the spotlight of royal duties and have young families. However, there is no doubt that the Yorks no longer have any sway over the monarchy. Erased were the titles, the elegance, and the appearance of royal status. Titles are more than just words in royal culture. They represent signs of rank, affiliation, and position. It was like something out of a fairy tale when Fergie was made Duchess of York. When a commoner from a wealthy but scandal-prone family marries a prince, they confidently and charmingly enter the royal life. At a time when the monarchy was cold and inflexible, she stood for freedom, joy, and freshness. However, the title eventually became both her shackle and her shield. She gained legitimacy as a result, but she was also bound to a man whose reputation would eventually fall apart. Now that the title has been removed, it is difficult to overlook the symbolism. For the first time since 1986, the woman who was formerly known as the Duchess of York is standing alone. Sarah Ferguson, a lady who has spent her entire life in the spotlight, must now face her new chapter without the shadow of the crown. She has no palace protection and no royal privileges. Consequently, the York story ends. It has been an unparalleled narrative of highs and lows in contemporary royal history, from the fairy tale wedding at Westminster Abbey to the scandals that rocked the tabloids, from extravagant spending to financial despair, from royal splendor to quiet humiliation. The last action was the stealthy administrative elimination of a once important title. It's hardly the flamboyant exile of the past. It's more formal, more silent, and more definitive. Erasure, no fanfare, no farewell. And the cruelest portion might be that. The gradual and silent breakdown of a family that once thought it could withstand any adversity. Even though Fergie is no longer the Duchess of York, she is still, to put it mildly, unforgettable. She is still a part of the royal saga even after losing her title. This is the end for the palace. It's exile for the Yorks. And for Sarah Ferguson, it may be a sense of loss mixed with newly discovered independence.